My sister didn't just call my wife useless. She said it loud enough that 2 nurses turned around. "She's dead weight, Gary. I don't know why you even brought her." That was Renee, my younger sister, in a hospital hallway, 40 feet from pre-op, 12 minutes before kidney surgery. My wife Carol had just flown in from New York after I called her at dawn, LaGuardia to Charlotte. She left our house in 20 minutes because this was the kind of call where you don't compare schedules or weigh options. You move. Carol moved. We've been married 22 years. I know what she looks like when she's scared and trying not to show it. She had that look when she texted me from the gate. "Landing 7:40. Tell Renee I'm coming." I told Renee. Renee texted back. "Why? What's she going to do?" I should have heard the contempt in that. I didn't. Carol got to Carolina's medical center still wearing her coat. She found us in pre-op, hugged Renee, sat beside her, listened to the anesthesiologist, and started asking the kind of questions families forget to ask when they're overwhelmed. She wrote everything down in the small notebook she keeps in her purse. Then she caught something Renee forgot to mention: penicillin allergy. Carol flagged it before surgery, calmly, clearly. The nurse updated the chart right there. That matters later. At the time, all I knew was that my wife had crossed 2 states to help my sister breathe easier for a few hours. And 12 minutes before they rolled Renee back, Renee turned to Dr. Felicia Marsh, chief of urology, chart in hand, and said, like she was commenting on the weather, "My brother's wife flew in from New York. I don't know why. She's basically useless." Then she laughed. Nobody else did. Dr. Marsh looked at Carol. Carol looked at me. And I did the worst thing a husband can do in a moment like that. I stood there. I didn't defend her. I didn't shut it down. I didn't even say, "That's enough." I just stood there while my wife took the hit. Carol didn't cry. She never does in places where crying costs her something. She helped walk Renee to the pre-op bay, straightened her blanket, checked the IV line, asked one last question about post-op monitoring, then stepped back into the hallway and sat down on a bench. That was when she opened her notebook to a fresh page. At the time, I thought she was writing down surgery details. I know now she was writing down the time, the exact words, who heard them, and the fact that I said nothing. Renee was in surgery for 3 hours and 40 minutes. Carol sat beside me the whole time. She brought me coffee from the cafeteria. She barely spoke. Once I tried to explain Renee the way families explain the person who always crosses the line. She's stressed, she's scared. She didn't mean it like that. Carol put her hand over mine and said very quietly, "You don't have to do that." That should have told me everything. It didn't. At 2:17 that afternoon, Dr. Marsh met us in recovery consultation. Surgery had gone well, no complications. Renee would need 6 to 8 weeks of careful recovery, limited activity, strict meals, medication tracking, someone physically present for the first stretch. When Dr. Marsh said that, she looked at Carol, not at me, at Carol. Carol nodded and wrote it down. Then Dr. Marsh thanked her for the allergy flag in pre-op. She said, "That kind of attention matters." Carol just said, "Of course." We went in to see Renee in recovery. She was groggy, half-conscious, small in a way I'd never seen her look before. Carol adjusted the pillow behind her neck, checked with the nurse about fluids, asked 2 precise questions, and stayed until visiting hours ended. She did all of it after being humiliated in public. That's the part I can't get past. Not what Renee said, what Carol still did after she said it. 4 days later, we started planning Renee's recovery at home. Every other time my family had a crisis, Carol became the invisible system behind it. My mother's hip surgery in 2018, my father's cardiac scare in 2020, Renee's gallbladder mess in 2021. Carol made the calls, built the schedules, coordinated meals, checked medications, followed up with doctors, and people forgot it was work. This time, she said, You should figure out what Renee actually needs and who she's comfortable with. No anger, no speech, no slammed cabinet doors. Just that sentence. I mistook it for grace. It wasn't grace. It was withdrawal. And the scary thing about a woman like Carol withdrawing is that she doesn't do it loudly. She just stops carrying what was never hers to begin with. At first, I barely noticed. No extra calls to specialists. No color-coded schedule on the fridge. No check-in texts. No quiet follow-up with the pharmacy. No holiday reshuffling around Renee's preferences the way we'd done for years. Then, about 3 weeks into Renee's recovery, I heard the first thing that made my stomach drop. Renee was on speakerphone with someone from church while I was dropping off groceries. She didn't know I was in the kitchen. I heard her laugh and say, "Carol mostly just sat there. Gary did what mattered." I froze. It wasn't just the lie. It was how easy it came out, like she'd already told it enough times to believe it. That was the first real spike for me. The first moment I understood this wasn't a cruel thing said under stress. This was the story Renee had decided to keep telling even after Carol had saved her from looking careless in front of her own surgical team. I left the groceries on the counter and walked out before Renee saw my face. 2 days later, my cousin Teresa called. Teresa is 61, retired school administrator, and not a woman who wastes a sentence. She said, "Gary, does Carol know Renee's been telling people she didn't do anything at the hospital?" I asked who. The prayer group, book club, Joyce McAllister, enough people. I sat down at my kitchen table and stared at the wood grain for a long time. Because here's what Renee didn't know. The nurse who caught a medication conflict in post-op recovery only caught it because Carol had flagged that allergy in pre-op. The note was in Renee's chart. Patrice Dunbar, the recovery nurse, referenced it by name. Later, Dr. Marsh told me privately that Carol's intervention had been clinically relevant. That's doctor language for, "This mattered more than you think." Renee didn't know that because she was unconscious. She also didn't know that the discharge care plan she'd been following at home, the detailed one with meals, symptom warnings, movement limits, pharmacy numbers, follow-up reminders, and questions to ask at the next appointment, hadn't come from the hospital. The hospital gave her a standard 2-page sheet. Carol built the real plan, 9 pages. She called Dr. Marsh's office, the nutritionist, and the pharmacy the night before discharge and put the whole thing together herself. Renee had been recovering off my wife's work while calling her useless. That sat in my chest like a stone. Then Teresa asked me something I still remember word for word. "Gary, who told Dr. Marsh's office to send the follow-up reminder to your phone instead of Renee's?" I hadn't. But I knew who had. That was Carol all over, still making sure Renee didn't fall through the cracks, still protecting her, just not in public anymore, not emotionally, not for free. The follow-up appointment was the next Tuesday on Randolph Road. Renee thought it was routine. She didn't know Teresa would be there. She didn't know Dr. Marsh had decided to clear something up. Now, Dr. Felicia Marsh is not a soft woman. She's direct, exact, and doesn't use 10 words where 4 will do. Renee went into that room expecting standard post-op conversation. She got something else. Dr. Marsh reviewed the blood work, checked the incision progress, went over restrictions, and then paused over the chart. She told Renee she wanted to make sure she understood the pre-op timeline correctly, because patients under stress don't always remember who did what. Then she walked her through it. Who raised the allergy, when it was raised, what note it triggered, how that mattered later in recovery. Then she asked Renee about the discharge plan she'd been following. Renee said, "The hospital gave me that." Dr. Marsh said, "No, the hospital gave you a standard packet. The detailed plan you received was prepared by your sister-in-law after she spoke with my office." Teresa told me later the room went dead quiet. Then Dr. Marsh said the line that finally made all of this land where it belonged. She said, "Your sister-in-law showed a level of care and attention I don't often see from family members. I think it's important that there be no confusion about that. Just a doctor with the chart open, telling the truth in a room where nobody could spin it." Renee sat there with nowhere to go. 40 minutes later, she called me from the parking lot. Her voice had that flat, careful sound people get when they're trying not to break apart in public. She said, "How long has Carol been doing things for me that I never knew about?" I told her the truth. Longer than you think. I told her about the scheduling, the calls, the holiday rearranging, the way Carol kept smoothing things over before my family ever saw the rough edges. I told her enough to make the picture clear. Then Renee said, "She flew here from New York. She caught the allergy. She made that whole plan. And I called her useless." I said, "Yeah." That silence on the line was one of the few honest silences my sister has ever given me. Then she asked, "Does she know I'm sorry?" I said, "She doesn't ask about you anymore." I didn't say it to be cruel. I said it because it was true. That hit harder than anything else could have. A few weeks later, Renee called Carol directly. I don't know everything that was said in that conversation. Carol never gave me a full transcript, and I didn't ask for one. But I know the call lasted 47 minutes. When Carol came out of the bedroom afterward, she looked lighter. Lighter. I sat beside her on the couch and asked, "Are you okay?" She said, "I will be." That's the cleanest truth in this whole story. Not that justice arrived with music behind it. Not that everybody changed overnight. Not that one apology erased years of being taken for granted. Just this. My wife flew in at 5 in the morning because my family needed her. She got insulted in public by the very person she came to help. She still caught the mistake that mattered. She still did the work nobody saw. And when she finally stopped protecting people from the weight of their own behavior, the truth showed up all by itself. She didn't humiliate Renee. She didn't chase revenge. She didn't have to. All Carol did was stop carrying what wasn't hers. And the second she did, everybody could finally see how heavy it had been.
That was the end, I would say. Do let me know what your thoughts are, and what's your point of view. So yeah, you know where to drop. Comment me, and I will read every comment. And see you in the next. Thank you.